Hey everybody, welcome to a new podcast of WODprep's The Warm-Up. We are a week out from the 2023 CrossFit Games. So today we're going to be talking about predictions, workouts, athletes, and everything that you need to know about what's going to be coming up and what you need to be getting involved in. So today, who is on the podcast? We have one of our coach Savannah, head coach CJ, and of course CEO and founder of WODprep, Ben. Hey everybody.
Hello.
We need a better intro. We need a better introduction of people. You can't have Ben out intro me. We need to figure out like a longer
We have with the best hair in the game, Dr. CJ DePalma with like rap horns and stuff. Does that work, buddy?
That was good.
All right.
Like Drake, like Money in the Grape.
Yeah.
Game style.
Yeah.
Edition.
Multi-time games coach, head WODprep coach, CJ DePalma.
For a week out, CJ, this is the first time that you won't be working at the games. What is the one thing that you are excited about?
Ever. I've never not worked at the CrossFit Games. I was a vendor for 2 years. I worked as a PT, doing hands-on care for 2 years, and then I've coached for 3 or 4. And I'm so pumped. Me and my wife and my 9-month-old Bennett are coming. We're camping on site, and we're so excited to just enjoy the entire week with nowhere to be. I'm so pumped.
There's a couple athletes that CJ was like chatting with that were like, "Ooh, maybe I'll coach them. Like maybe they need a coach." And I was just like, "Don't do it. Don't do it." CJ, yeah. I want to finally just hang out with you and have fun at the CrossFit Games. So,
And so
I'm super stoked.
For those, the games are pretty challenging as a coach, just the way that it's designed and set up, just the time constraints and the restrictions and like kind of where we can and can't go. It's hard to get around. So I average on coaching days like 25 to 30,000 steps. And so it's exciting. I'm pumped to enjoy everything that Madison has to offer as the second to last year, right? One more year after this, and then we don't know where it's going. So Madison's the best.
So just on that, then, what has been, from a coach's perspective, what has been your experience of the games where you're far more behind the scenes than necessarily in there with the crowd watching it?
Sure. Yeah, so I think the CrossFit Games gets a lot of heat, right, for program design and how things are run, and I don't think people realize how huge the operation is. I mean, they have like 400 volunteers, like if you include Rogue and the games, of like just people volunteering alone. And like 60 to 80 paid staff between judges and volunteer coordinators and things like that. I mean, it's just such a big operation. I can't even imagine, really what it looks like behind the scenes. But it always seems to run smooth. They are always on time. I always enjoy the workouts. I try not to be hypercritical. I think that's the beauty of CrossFit. I think it's a double-edged sword, right? The biggest complaints are this unknown and unknowable, but why it draws so much love from us is because of the same exact thing. So it's good. Being behind the scenes is great. Hanging out in the warm-up area, you get to see everyone. So my 65-year-old individual female, is literally warming up next to Annie Thorsdottir, right? And it's happened every year. We're warming up, and then Annie just like comes in and just like does her thing right next to us, and you just, it's pretty neat. It's you don't experience that in any other sport ever. So it's pretty cool.
So speaking of the programming, as we speak at this point, 2 of the workouts have been released. So there is a 5K cross-country run, and then there's the Olympic lift total. We're still waiting on the gymnastics movement. But first, What are your thoughts on the cardio and the lift movement so far?
Is that to me directly?
Go on, CJ, you can start it off.
Yeah. So if you guys see the posts that they make, right? They have this like, diagram of gymnastics, weightlifting, monostructural, right? And then in the middle is CrossFit, right? And so that's what kind of people don't see. And so there's 3 workouts. Helen has been released, which is a great representation of true blue CrossFit. We'll get to that in a minute. But I think you're going to see the entire week of this theme, right? Like they're all going to fit very well into bits, right? I think you're going to see one more sort of monostructural piece. I think you're going to see another very, very heavy weightlifting specific piece. And then I think you're going to see another gymnastics. And then the rest, I think, will kind of be into that middle tier where it's that CrossFit bit. I think the 5K is great. I think the total is great. They'll find a really fun way to show it. I doubt it's going to be a traditional weightlifting 3 attempts, everyone goes. It's got to be very enticing, right? I think it's probably going to be snatch 6 minutes, clean and jerk 6 minutes, like, everyone kind of on the floor sort of thing. But I think it's going to be really cool. And that'll for sure close out Friday night. I think it's almost a guarantee. If they're releasing it now, that'll be like the Friday night closeout where everything released now, I think will be before the first cut.
We might have to delay the WODprep party to make sure that everyone gets to watch the weightlifting, because I want to watch it. Yeah. That's like one of the few events that I get really stoked about. I will skip the 5K. I won't watch that. But very selfishly, I love the Oli totals. Like the most memorable times at the CrossFit Games for me have always been watching the 1 rep maxes, like just watching like people on the big stage throw down, whether it's the 1 rep max clean from a few years ago or the snatch. Like I absolutely love it, and people always show out. So the fact that they're doing, I think, both of them is going to be awesome. And then very selfishly, I've actually been training with a team that is going to the CrossFit Games, so it's been really, really fun to work out with my buddy Kevin and Coda CrossFit here in Colorado, because they qualified. They have been training hard, and they have a whole class that just follows the programming with them. And obviously, we don't do everything, but selfishly, on last Friday, I got to, or no, was it Monday? What day is it today? Yeah, on Friday, I got to do a mock version of that workout, and I actually PR'd my snatch, which makes me very happy. And almost PR'd my clean and jerk too. So I'm very excited about that, and it's going to be amazing to watch how much these people lift, because I think each and every year the numbers just get bigger and bigger and more impressive. So it's going to be fun.
I mean, I have to completely agree, because even if you just think about last year with the heavy sandbags, the few years before where it was the max clean, and then I think you go back even to 2019 or 2018, exactly the format, CJ, you were saying, everybody out on the bar, everybody's barbell is out onto the floor, where you just don't even know where to look, because somebody will be a massive snatch over to your right, then one over to your left. Just the experience of being in the Coliseum when it's loud and everybody's screaming. The athletes always say it on the documentaries how amped they get, and you can just tell by how much how much of the audience also get pushed. Now, so Savannah, what are your thoughts?
Well, for the weightlifting, I think I would really like to see a slightly different format. I think that the individual lifter was very cool the first time, and I think as they've repeated that format, it tends to take a long time. And I think that they can make that a little more efficient and make that a little more exciting. So I'd love to see something a little different. Of course, I'm looking forward to the heavy lifting as an Olympic lifter myself. and I just think everybody loves watching athletes lift heavy. I think that there's just an appreciation for that, no matter who you are. It's just very, very cool and exciting thing to watch. One thing though, I do have a question on the 5K. I saw a comment that Chris Hinshaw made specifically about this year's 5K, saying that it was going to be devastating. And I'm just wondering, compared to some of the other runs that they've done and some of the trail runs that they've done, what why would he say something like that? Like, what do you think that could be different? CJ, your gears are spinning, I can tell.
Yeah, the only thing I was thinking that too, right? Because they announced like it was this big thing. So I'm guessing there's going to be some sort of twist, at least for the individuals. They've done a 5K every year. I mean, we've ran every year, right? Like
Right, right.
they did a, I mean, they did a ruck, a 6K. They ran 2K with 20 pounds, 40 pounds, 60 pounds. No, maybe it wasn't that much, 20, 30, 40, something. It was heavy, right? Like running with anything in like in stride with more than 20 pounds on your back is super challenging. And they rucked it, right? And so I don't, I don't know. I'm assuming it's going to be something a little bit different, but they've ran on that back outdoor area the entire. Maybe they're going to like bring in like artificial like hills, like something like that. That would be kind of cool, like to see some climbs.
Yeah.
But
Or like a second score to
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
change the
like
pacing up a little bit.
Right, like
a,
the first 400 is a kind of like what they did with the marathon row, where the first, what was it, first 2,000 was a score, and then the full one was a score.
the half.
Maybe they're making everyone wear clown shoes.
Yes, the
That would be
boots.
devastating.
Those
Think
red
about
boots are
it.
like right. They're like all over TikTok and stuff. Um,
It could be clown shoes, or
I
they
like
gotta wear
it.
like ballet slippers. I don't know. It's CrossFit.
Blindfolded for sure. Doing crossover double unders the entire way, right?
They're carrying grocery bags. They gotta carry grocery bags.
No, it's the jugs, right? Like we saw for COVID.
Oh yeah.
A
I
gallon
don't know.
jug.
Yeah, I don't
And
know.
I think the other thing that was out kind of on my mind this morning while I was just thinking about games events and a few things that you've said in the past, CJ, is the prevalence of running at the games. Like I feel like it it maybe they just have maybe they have more of an opportunity to put it there, and it is always there. And I feel like it's what do you think the purpose of that is? Just because they have the space and the opportunity to put the athletes through that, or do you think that it is a different fitness test compared to row and ergs?
Right. Well, it is certainly a different fitness test, right? It biases a different person, flat out, right? You know, like
Right.
you can be small and not strong and be an excellent runner, but you can be a terrible rower. And
Yep.
biker can be very big and not super aerobic, and you could completely smash the bike in the row, right? To answer the first part of your question, if you've listened to um, like Dave and the GM Justin Berg, he always talked about this story that was created through the year, and Boz talked about that a lot too when he first came in. And so that the all three stages or four stages now will complete a story, right? Now a lot of people don't agree with that because like basically we test different styles of CrossFit throughout the phase, and so if you flipped the script and you did games work first and then you went games, semifinals, quarterfinals, open, different people would see the finals, right? And so some people don't agree with that. Again, unknown and noble. I think, you know, the best are still going to come out, and they kind of really fall into we're still going to find the fittest on earth, which they always will. But it really does, like that comment of like testing different things affects like, you know, their bottom half of the field. But I think they have more. You can just do so much more in person, right, with a judge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what it comes down to, right? If we could have judging and live competition the whole way, you would see running the entire way. That's where the shuttle run came to light. and it came to light really hard. And Boz made it very clear the shuttle run was in every single stage of the CrossFit season so far for every athlete, masters, individuals, and teams. So the shuttle run made its face aggressively throughout, and then running is going to be tested. And so leaning into that, Henshaw could just be, this is the first time we've only seen a pure 5K, by the way, outside of Pendleton when we saw a 7K, but it's slow, right? Because it's so hilly. And so maybe that reference is it's just a 5K, it's nothing else, and now it's time to floor it, right?
Yeah.
I was about to say that because I was just thinking, is he trying to go as old school as possible back to the very, very early days? Because even wasn't the very first CrossFit Games, it was a cross-country run, there was some kind of heavy barbell, and then there was a gymnastics work, but it was all very individual in the early days. Whereas it's literally them, Boz just trying to go back to the roots of CrossFit, and that is the narrative of the story.
Yeah, I mean that was pretty evident last year, that he wants to utilize old CrossFit Journal and very traditional foundational aspects to the sport. Did we lose Ben and Savannah? Are they there? Can you see
No,
them?
I'm here.
Okay, all right. Ben, are you there?
Yep.
Okay. I can't see them on my screen. No worries. So we can definitely see that, right? But Dave is back. If you listen to Dave's talk, I can't see anybody. Oh, well, this is unfortunate. Just talking to myself.
We're here. Yeah, just keep going. It's okay.
If you listen to like Dave Castro's weekly wrap up, there was a question that referred to him as the director of the CrossFit Games, which is not the exact title that he was given and the public was given again. So he is much more in control, basically in his same role. And so he came in and mentioned that some things were changed, but most things were left alone. But so I still think we can see a big Boz, traditional foundational flair, highly aerobic, highly skill limiting type of training, right? And what I mean by that is some of the things, Helen is a great example of traditional CrossFit where there isn't really a limiter, meaning you can just go all gas, no brakes. But most of the gymnastics things are going to be lower heart rate with a very high skill kind of like bottleneck that you'll find in the middle of it.
And I think we've seen such a complexity in the progression of the gymnastics tests. Do you have any ideas of what that piece could be? I mean, we've seen just like crazy. I feel like it's been really, with the handstand walk challenges and the obstacles that they've put in front of the athletes in the past with the ring handstand push-ups. I just feel like I have a hard time comprehending where some of those can go,
Sure.
the pirouettes and semis. Do you have any speculations? Let's start with Ben. Do you have any gymnastics speculations, Ben?
Not really. I mean, we've seen obviously a bunch of fancy handstand walk stuff. We've seen double under crossovers or just crossovers in general. I really don't know like what else they could throw at us. I'm sure there's
I know that's how
plenty
I
of
feel.
I'm sure there's plenty of stuff that they could do. It could be complexes, it could be combinations of movements. Like that's something that there's always, we haven't seen too much of that in CrossFit specifically, like toes to bar, chest to bar, or something like that, where you have to alternate movements.
I mean, what about a chest facing handstand push up, walk out, pirouette, walk back, handstand push ups?
Yeah, I mean, stuff like that.
Sounds ridiculous, but until they put it in, it'll like.
Yeah, I mean, stuff like that absolutely could exist.
We could see a like a freestanding in a like moving, right? Like walk into the box, freestand for 15 seconds, continue walking out of the box or something like that.
Oh, I love it when they do that.
But yeah, I mean, I could definitely also see, that's a really good thought, Charlie, of like pre-fatiguing the handstand work with like wall facing handstand push-ups. I think we're going to have to see the deficit, that floating wall facing handstand push-up again, solely because of the backlash that I think CrossFit might get from Laura's chances of winning if you don't see this like deficit strict handstand push-up in the training, like in the programming.
I mean, like you're saying that like Laura Horvath has a very high chance of winning unless there's deficit handstand work because she doesn't perform well in that.
Right, that specific thing, right? And so if that doesn't show up, then I think a lot of people, and again, it might not. Dave and Boz don't program based on people's thoughts. This is just something that you'll see. If you don't see a deficit strict handstand push-up, wall facing or not, and Laura wins, there will be the Hiller worlds will backlash and cry out that it wasn't a complete test when someone has such a big hole and can still win.
I mean,
do you think that that's taken into consideration?
I don't know.
It seems like it shouldn't be. It seems like it shouldn't be.
For sure not.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's it's the same thing with like Rich and running when he won, right? Like even through all of his wins, right, he still didn't run well until he became a team athlete. Like later into the team athlete years, like 17 or 18. Like he just was 30th last on the runs, and it was very clear, right? Henshaw's talked about this in years past. He was an atrocious runner. VO2 max was like in the toilet for some of these things and just like did not, because he didn't train it. And so, but yeah, anyways, it's interesting. It's interesting. It'll be interesting to see if it's in or not.
But speaking of the podium, a lot of the big name athletes, particularly on the female side, are not in the 2023 games. So just to name a few, Mal O'Brien's out. Obviously, Tia Claire Toomey is out with a baby. Cara Saunders is out with a baby. And also Hayley Adams. That's just to name a few. How do you think that will shake up the whole week's performance and narrative that we've been talking about?
TJ, right up your alley.
I mean, perfect. This is my bread. I love it. I mean, it's going to be a completely different podium. I mean, like the chances of Laura being on the top or on the podium are, I would say, are like 99%. Somewhere on the podium is 99%. But other than that, you have no idea. You can say Danielle. You can say Emma Lawson. I think Emma Lawson looks fantastic in semifinals. You can say Annie, right? Annie looks amazing 40 years after her first CrossFit appearance, right? Like, insane. And so, I mean, you have no idea. It's 100% going to come down to the programming because there's no outlier, right? Like, Mal and Tia were on a complete lonely island by themselves, and Tia was on a further lonely island. She came in with back pain. There's a chance that she was like pregnant at the games, right? Within like that last couple of days span, like if you look at the time frame of when she delivered. And so it's anyone's game, men and female across the board. It is up in the air. It will come down to programming, I think.
I definitely think there'll be the element of mental game. When the podium now looks almost more possible to athletes, it's who can withstand that pressure and who wants it the most. If they're all, let's just say for argument's sake, all their programming's been great. Quite a few of the athletes you just named, CJ, have had really great semi-finals. I know Lauren Forvat and Emma Lawson, they particularly did really well in the semi-finals, so absolute favourites. Emma Lawson is younger, whereas Lauren Horvat is older. Like, just with how much of that experience to be able to take the pressure and just have those killer instincts to go for that gold position. That would personally be my opinion on who's going to take it and who's going to go for it.
Yeah,
I think just the available opportunity, just like you said, not that those athletes should always think that, they don't know what's coming and that you never know what's going to happen during an event or what's going to be announced next. So they always have to have that mindset of, that it could be theirs, but I'm sure it's very difficult when you have somebody as dominating as Tia where you really might inherently just think that you are sort of fighting for second. But I think the possibility of such a shakeup might bring a little more fire to each event from the ladies for sure.
Just you have to look at Vellner. He's the great example when you just like literally don't know what's going to happen when it comes to the CrossFit Games. You know, every year something's always happened to him. But that could be across the board to any athlete. So on the men's side, then obviously Ricky Gerard is out of the competition. I know I've got my favorite, but so Ben, have you got a favorite on the men's side that you're going for?
I don't have a favorite. I'm not as much of a CrossFit sport follower as much as I am a CrossFit doer. I really don't follow the big names in the games too much, but obviously, Medeiros has proven that he's, a perennial threat, even if he doesn't necessarily perform, as well or as dominant as like Frazier did leading into the games. He obviously shows out at the games.
He likes to be. He has a challenge that he likes to be the underdog. So when he's leading out front from the start of the competition, it's almost like he takes the gas off.
Yeah.
But then he's like behind. It's like that's when he puts the gas on, and then that's how he comes out top. So I think he's got a mind game to overcome if he's going to really become a Matt Frazier.
Yeah. So I'd say Medeiros, Vellner. They always finish up top. I'm not exactly sure who the other podium athlete would be. I don't know. CJ, what do you think? Who's the potential to? I think Vellner and Medeiros have solid chances of podium because that's what they do. But who else could grab it?
Yeah, I think. Well, if you just look at the first couple workouts that are released. Helen in the 5K, Vellner's just not going to do that well, most likely. I don't know. Everyone yells.
Yeah, but they're going to have so many events. There's 2 events, but who cares?
They have 2 events, but they're pure running events.
But once CrossFit starts, it's just like with Rich every year. It's like, oh my God, he's not going to win, and then he would just dominate.
Right. Yeah, 100%. But it's that same thing. But I think Roman has to be on there. Roman was 3rd, and so
yeah, of course, Roman. Yeah,
I think it's between those 3. A lot of people will say that Medeiros didn't look good at semifinals, but if you take out his, the sled, like lane 8 runner debacle, right? His score probably would have been substantially higher, and it wouldn't even have been a question. He is the favorite. There's no doubt, regardless if he would have limped in every stage, he would still be the favorite because he's won 2 years in a row.
But right? You're right. I forgot about Roman. Of course, Roman. I think he probably has a higher chance than Vellner to get on the podium for sure because he's so well-rounded, which is crazy for how absolutely gargantuan he is.
He's a big dude. Yeah.
Honestly, you should watch some of the content he's been putting out around his training and his mindset. And I've got huge admiration for him because he's just in training and he'll be like, don't think, just do. Honestly, I'm repeating his words because it's like no messing around mentality. It's just like, right, we've got 5 sets and we're going to do all 5. We're going to do them properly with true intent. And it's like, even if you're hurting, even if you're suffering, just do it. No thinking. He has that mentality of doesn't feel sorry for himself. And I think that's quite powerful when you're at that elite athleticism. So he's certainly on my top one to watch, just for that alone.
Yeah, he's, it's like he's Russian. They just differently. They do. They just do. Look at weightlifting and, regardless of whatever, moral and political issues, they just read a little different for sure. But yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so then
I'm looking at the podium from last year and kind of the qualifying list, and I really it's just so hard because I feel like you look at the names and you're like, okay, so look at the names and you're like, oh, Adler, and you're like, oh yeah, he's great. And then you're like, Roman, great. And you're like, oh, BK, great. It's like each person, I think that's the coolest thing, right? Is because at that level, like you look at the athletes and you think of how they performed historically or how they look this year, and you're like, oh, they look great. And you're like, oh, they have done so well. Like each person really. So I think it just does go back to that shakedown of what the programming shows. And, you know, if there are any large upsets there because the athletes are all so amazing.
Yeah, I mean, we all know BK is going to come out of the gate and be in the lead, right? Like, I mean, he's always in the lead when the monostructural stuff, you know, is all done. He's crushed it, and then, you know, it's just him trying to hang on normally after all that stuff. So I'm guessing, hell, in 5K, he's going to absolutely smash him. He'll be up near the top, and then it's just a matter of can he hold on through the heavy lifting and beyond.
Yep.
I totally forgot about Adler as well. Like the noticeable thing from him from semi-finals this year was that he's got lean. You know, he's always known to be the stronger guy, and clearly he's done something. I haven't looked into it yet, but he's, you know, there was a few interviews with him, and he's clearly changed something up. So he's going for something new, and I'll be interested to see what happens to him in the games.
Yeah. So his big claim to training was that he whiteboarded every day and had never followed a strength progression. But he is like on the conjugate team now, which means that training is like highly structured. And so I don't know how long how many years it's been, but in 2020 when he got there, he was very open that because he won the strength event, right? He beat Matt and by 5 pounds or whatever it was, and he's like, yeah, he had whiteboarded his whole CrossFit career to that point. And that was what he always talked about, which is just mind-blowing to me. But
for those who don't know, whiteboarding is where you just show up at the gym and make up the workout on the spot with essentially no structure. It's what Rich Froning has been famous for doing for a very long time. Just like, what do we want to do, guys? And then just kind of writing up workouts that way.
It's been at the gym with his friends at the start of his CrossFit training.
Yeah, that's right. Back what I used to do a long time ago.
Yeah, exactly. So, that could be the biggest difference in structure and like actually focusing on weaknesses. But Adler's always been super well-rounded, even like when he wasn't at the top. I mean, he never had huge fall-off events, maybe aerobic stuff a little bit. But, yeah, it's interesting because we talk about these people and we didn't really talk about like the winners, like Alex Gazan won the West, Emma Carey won the East, Lazar Dukic won Europe. And so the winners, Pat won the West for the males, but there's a lot of people that won these semifinals that are not top 5 games athletes besides maybe Lazar, right? He pretty handily won Europe. And then I don't even remember who won the women. Who was it? Oh, was it Laura? I think it was. Let's see. No, Gabrielle Magala. Laura got 3rd, right? And he got 2nd. So it's so hard to say who's going to be where. I think I really do think it's completely up in the air, which makes it for an amazing week.
I'm stoked.
So it's definitely going to be a really good games. And interestingly as well, they have announced that there is a Kurt that is happening. How do you think, we just mentioned about BKG, he's going to come out strong at the start. How do you think that will affect the leaderboard as we go from Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday? So ultimately we'll only be down to 20 athletes when we hit the Sunday mark.
Yeah, they've done the numbers and it doesn't really make a huge difference. Like as far as like they used last year, I don't know who did it, maybe Brian Friend, and they kind of like plugged in if these cuts happened last year that they're going to happen this year, and it didn't change the top 10 of the leaderboard. I think one person was like 9th to 10th or 10th to 9th. And so from the actual scoring point, it doesn't really seem like it changes a lot. and they really weigh in on. It allows them to maybe do some more fun, more exciting events with equipment or event design and things like that, or maybe even more events, like more tests. Dave talks about that a lot as kind of like the stronghold point of why they choose to do it, and a lot of sports do it also. But it does stink as the athlete to get there and not be able to complete the whole weekend. But they do also get there on Monday and check in Monday and start competing on Wednesday, and so, or Thursday, so I mean, they get all their stuff, they get all the media, and they get everything, and they compete for 2 full days, which usually the first 2 days have more events too. So they're going to compete in more than 50% of the tests. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that people were upset last time, or the people who were upset, the argument was that some of the later events might have favored some of the athletes that got cut early on, so that it changed the potential result of the overall leaderboard. However, I mean, I don't think that there's anything wrong with having to earn your way through and really needing to be on your game and really, really kind of forcing that well-roundedness so that that you are able to hang in there and stay the whole weekend.
Yeah, I mean, the purpose of the CrossFit Games is to find the fittest human on earth. It's not to celebrate the top 40 fittest on earth, right? Like it's not like, oh, you did it, yay, let's have a great time. It's like, no, this has literally defined our world champion. Like, if you don't like getting cut, then be better, right? Like you're in a competitive sport. Like, get out of here. Like, suck it up. And like if I made it to the games and I got cut after 2 days, like I'd be freaking pissed. But it's because I wasn't good enough, right? So it's just like I think it's a ridiculous argument. This is a sport. This is not a charity. So if you're not good enough, you lose. Like if you're not good enough to make the playoffs, you don't make the playoffs in sports. They don't like give you a pat on the back and say, "Hey, you tried really hard. Like we'll give you a spot anyway." No, you get freaking cut because you suck.
Oh yeah, you sell it then. I think the biggest complaints, are, while it is a sport, it's not really a sport yet as far as like how we look at the finances behind it, because people still have to fund their way. Very similar to like Corn Ferry Tour golf, right? So we would consider like the minor leagues of golf. It's very similar to that, as it costs people a lot of money to compete, and only top gets celebrated, meaning like they get their money back, right? And so I think that makes it challenging. And then on the other side of like finding the fittest in the world, if there was a case to be made that, say, your top 20 are going in and the workouts come out, Justin's on top, he gets last on 2 events, right? Depending on how they adjust the scoring board, will could have changed it as much, right? And then I think it's really into like the Noah Matt like conversation of the cuts came in. Matt basically had to win no matter what, all of the workouts to get through or whatever it was, and it didn't matter because he couldn't get in, even though he was beating Noah by 2 minutes at a workout. It didn't matter because he couldn't get enough space, right? He ended up winning, and it is what it is. But had he not won, I think there would have been like a big asterisk to it.
Right, because he was clearly the fittest. But So basically, CJ, what you're saying there is, just for everyone listening who might not be as familiar with it, is like when there are only 10 people left in the competition, or in this case, when there are 20 people left competing, if the top athlete bombs a workout and let's say gets last place, then the point differential between first and last place is whatever that point differential is. However, if the entire field was there and that same person bombed the workout, they might have gotten 38th place instead of 20th place, which thus creates even more point differential. So basically it's like you have more shakeups. In theory, you can have more shakeups in the leaderboard if you have a lot farther to fall in a specific event, or a lot farther to climb in a specific event. But interestingly enough, like the fact that you said someone did an analysis on the leaderboard if there had been cuts and rescored from years past, and the fact that it didn't shake up the top 10 very much, I think it's probably a good sign that, like, hey, these cuts really aren't going to change too much.
Right. Yep. Agreed.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last thing sort of that we've not necessarily spoke about is with the programming is within the different categories. So that's all the different age groups, teens, the individual, and all the adaptive athletes. They are all doing incredibly similar workouts, which is slightly different from previous years. You guys have been to the games a few times. I came for the first time last year, and we're all going to be there next week. Do you think that will change our viewing experience watching all of the different events and all the different categories, especially as well that the calendar, the how it's structured over the week has also changed?
Well, I think just from the standpoint of being able to watch multiple categories do the same thing, that like it's really cool to see, what it really shows the ability levels of the athletes, right? Like you can really like have some comparison there to see where the teens are at, where the masters are at, and where like how the teams compare. I think for me it would be interesting because I like to see comparisons.
Yeah, so basically, you're saying that this year, based on the schedule, there's less events happening at the same time with different divisions.
I thought she was talking about the similarity of the events across the divisions.
Gotcha. Yes. Okay, so the teams are doing the same events as the individuals, and the teens or the masters are doing the same events. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that's gonna be really cool. It's going to be super cool to see a teenager outsnatch some of the actual male games athletes, because I know it's going to happen. Like the girl, oh my gosh, the coolest event from I think last year's games, maybe this was 2 years ago, I don't remember, was watching like a 16-year-old or a 15-year-old girl snatch 202 pounds. Y'all, do you guys remember that? Was anyone else there with me?
Mm-hmm.
Olivia.
Lost my mind. That was the coolest thing ever.
She's competing as an individual
this
year, which is super cool.
I think you'll see a lot of the same events, but then you'll see ones that won't. Like, so the bike was announced last night, right? That individuals are going to be on the bike and teams, and so you won't see that for the masters. Right? They won't put them on bikes. They would have said they would, and so you'll see differences, but you will see the same. Like Helen, the 5K. In the total, which is great. I think that's really cool. I think those are all good comparisons. I think Helen will look different, right? I think it's going to be like maybe like a little bit longer for the individuals and more traditional for the older athletes. But it's cool. It is cool to do a direct comparison to see kind of like where the fitness levels are of everybody relative to the best in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, is there anything that everybody is looking forward to with the games coming up next week that hasn't been mentioned?
Not working.
Oh, come on! It's the WODprep. It's the WODprep party.
I mean, I'm obviously extremely excited for Friday night. WODprep will be hosting a party at Up North, which is a bar in Madison near downtown. And the first 750 drinks are free. Is that right, Savannah? Something like that?
175.
175, whatever. Same thing.
Two of the numbers are the same.
Pretty close. Two of the numbers are the same. Anyway, spending a bunch of money to make sure that people can drink for free. We're going to have a little photo booth. It's going to be a good time. And then I know I'm also I'm coaching a workout on Friday at Big Dane Collective at, I think, 4 p.m. I think is when it is, for FIRE.
4 p.m.
For Forging Youth Resilience, that nonprofit. They're just doing a fun workout. It's going to be a sweet workout. It has heavy barbell in it, which will be fun. So I'm coaching that. and then I'm excited to play pickleball with Savannah. So that's what I
I'll
want.
bring Jordan's. I'll bring the fancy paddle.
Nice.
Savannah, what are you excited for?
I love watching the games. I love being in Madison. I love Madison. I think it's just such a cool place. And every year I think that. And I just always think back to how I thought it was so dumb that the games moved there and that I absolutely love it so much. And I was like, what was I thinking?
Yep.
But I love to be with you guys. Like, we don't get to see each other enough. And we all love being around each other and have so much fun together. So I'm looking forward to hanging out with you guys and watching some fitness, like my favorite things.
Oh, and we have
It's
a
like
team
the
dinner.
best
That's going to
week.
be great. We
Mhm.
get to see Bennett. We get to see little baby CJ.
Oh,
Well, I didn't mean to spin it, but it's like mini CJ, so smiley and cute. And then also another highlight is you guys remember Miggy's Bakes, that bakery
Yes,
that makes the most
of
incredible
course.
cookies and stuff. She opened an actual brick and mortar facility. So I am just going to go there every day and buy
I'll
everything.
go every day with you.
yeah.
I hope it's walkable from the hotel because I'll
I
go
don't know
every
where
day.
it is, but I'm going to find it and we're going to go there.
Savannah,
Okay,
I'm
great.
bringing my bike. Like, we can cycle there. We'll put like a basket on my bike. We'll
Okay,
like
perfect. Okay, all right. Oh, how smart. That's awesome. You're gonna pack your bike?
yeah, I'm gonna pack my bike. Yeah, my bike's all packed up, ready to go, and I'm gonna put it on the plane and take it with
This
me.
is the
You have
case.
a bike box?
It's a bike bag and it's been like bubble wrapped. a
And you
lot.
know how to reassemble your bike?
Yeah, yeah. I already used
Oh,
it in Spain. For context of the podcast, I've been in Spain. I'm in the UK. I'm gonna fly it from the UK to Madison, and then it's gonna make its way down to
cool.
Florida.
I'm a little jealous. That's awesome.
Miggy's
It's nice.
Bakes is not walkable, Savannah. I just
So we're
checked.
gonna start building the
That's all
bike.
right.
But we're going to
It
use
That's
her
well
bike. We're
worth
going to
it.
go there. And we're going to make it happen.
is.
Okay.
Okay, on that note, I think we're going to be wrapping up nicely here. Thank you, everybody, for listening to another podcast with the warm up. And we'll make sure to be putting all the links that we've mentioned throughout the whole podcast today, so you can go check them out. And then until next time, we'll see you guys later.
Peace.
Bye.